Welcome to this week's edition of World Crisis Radio. This is Webster Tarpley speaking from Washington, D.C. It's August 18th. It's actually August 19th. And we are now seeing the first feeble beginnings of a counterattack by the nation-state against the forces of chaos and financial speculation, the neo-feudalists and the right-wing anarchists that have been attacking existing governments and existing economies, the predators, the corsairs, and the privateers. And we have two things to point to. The first, Euro-Tobin. Euro-Tobin. This is the big news. The equivalent of the Wall Street sales tax, the European-wide Tobin tax, has been the centerpiece of the Sarkozy-Merkel consultations this past Tuesday. You know, those Franco-German consultations were set up back in the good old days of Adenauer and de Gaulle, and there have been hundreds of them since. They happen every 6 months for sure. And this is one of the very biggest in that entire series. We are told now that Sarkozy and Merkel are firmly committed to imposing a Tobin tax across Euroland, that is, across the 17 countries of the Euro, and, if possible, across the 27 of the European Union. And, of course, watch for the British, those nefarious British, to play their usual game of divide and conquer as they seek to save the speculative cancer of the city of London. Here's what it looks like. It explicitly includes derivatives. This is the first derivatives tax that is specified for derivatives in, I believe, recent world history. We do know that there had been taxes on this, certain kinds of things like this in the past, but now this explicitly for derivatives. So it is a tax of 0.01% on derivatives. That is essentially 1/10,000th of a percent. It's not a big tax, but 0.01%. So add in two more zeros. 0.0001 is the coefficient that you're going to multiply that by. But if that is something in the area of several quadrillion, which European derivatives turnover certainly would be, that gets into real money. So 0.0001 of all derivative sales, and we got to make sure that this includes not just the exchange-traded options, futures, and indices, but also those designer over-the-counter derivatives, the collateralized debt obligations, structured investment vehicles, collateralized loan obligations, and the infamous credit default swaps, to the extent that they're not banned outright. There is also a tax of 0.1% on bonds, and that would turn out to be 0.001. So that would be the tax on bonds. Take the bond turnover, multiply it by that. It is a financial transaction tax. It goes on turnover, buying and selling, Umsatz, fatturato. And that is the key. It doesn't wait to see whether these people say they have a profit or not. Like the way the British have this relatively feeble bank tax, but that only works on profits, and the accounting tricks are used to obscure the fact that there are profits. This is much more like a flat tax on derivatives and bond selling. We wonder why stocks are not included. We would also hope very much, and we want to fight for the fact that this has got to be applied to, for example, index contracts in oil markets, let's say. In other words, this becomes a tool to re-regulate commodities markets. So this is a big deal. Now, this is agreed to by Sarkozy and by Merkel, but not just by them. We have a European front coming. This is the anti-derivatives bloc we have been waiting for, we have been working for here. The anti-derivatives bloc is there. Now defend it. Now fight. Put aside your petty bourgeois ideological obsessions and fight the speculators. Here's a way to fight the speculators. So right now it's France, Germany, Italy. Those are the three biggest economies of the euro, plus Austria, plus Spain. Great. Make sure that your country rallies to the anti-derivatives bloc, the bloc that wants to bridle these wild speculative parasites, corsairs, and hedge fund hyenas for whom these derivatives are the stock in trade. Now, this had been, of course, proposed. Take a look at the website, the Italian website, Cado in Piedi. You will find an article there that was posted on August 15th, Ferragosto, the Feast of the Ascension, the holiday going back to the Roman Empire. And in there I say the Europeans have made several essentially fatal mistakes. The first one is they did not impose a Tobin tax, a Robin Hood tax, the equivalent of a Wall Street sales tax, a transfer tax, a turnover tax, call it what you will. That is now at least seemingly on its way to being remedied in some form. We want to fight for the proper form. The other thing, of course, that hasn't been done is the ban on credit default swaps. And the third thing that needs to be done is more raids on Standard & Poor's, Moody's, and the other ratings agencies. So again, the anti-derivatives bloc, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Austria. This is a powerful combination. The opposition. Obviously, the British will be the center of the opposition inside Europe. So, as de Gaulle said, the British are a Trojan horse of the United States, of Wall Street, inside Europe. But now we've got a Trojan horse of the Trojan horse. This is a sad day for Ireland. The Irish finance minister has said that it has to be all 27 of the European Union countries, and not just the 17 of the Euroland bloc where the euro is the currency. And this, of course, this is a cheap trick because everybody knows that the British will be the main opposition. This will be fought tooth and nail by the demagogue Cameron, the failed demagogue Cameron, the guy whose economic policies set the stage for riots with the help of MI5. The British are going to oppose it. So if you give veto power to the British, this is not smart. The U.S., of course, is going to oppose it. And we have all kinds of people, for example, Trichet, the failed head of the European Central Bank, who really needs to go home. Trichet says that it has to be worldwide. In other words, it's not even enough to have the 27 European Union countries, but you've got to have everybody, meaning the U.S. as well. So this is an attempt to give veto power to the U.S. No, no, and no. Push ahead with this and do it with whoever is willing to go along with it. This is where push comes to shove, and everybody knows that if France, Germany, Italy, and Spain want it with the help of Austria, which is also considerable, this is going to go through if these leaders are willing to fight. Now, of course, you might say, well, Sarkozy is evil, isn't he? Well, yes, but there is this French state, we might say, in some ways, de Gaulle, who has been dead for 40 years now. De Gaulle has been dead for 40 years. He's more powerful than Sarkozy, who still claims to be alive, because those institutions of the Fifth Republic have their own logic, and maybe this can also help to save Europe in extremis. Also, another interesting sign, Barroso of the European Commission. We haven't been too kind to him, and with good reason, but Barroso is now supporting it. So this idea has been in the works, as listeners know, for quite a while. It's very interesting that the Anglo-Americans are trying to black out the fact that this exists, and we'll get back to that in just a minute on World Crisis Radio.